Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Plays You Warm Up, the podcast where we share the stories, people, and places driving the sporting event and tourism industry forward. I'm your host, Kerri Shields. Today, we're stepping into one of the most talked about new sports in the world, the Pillow Fight Championship. Yes, you heard that right. Behind what started as a viral concept is a growing global movement to make pillow fighting an officially recognized sport. Joining me is Steve Williams, co founder and CEO of Pillow Fight Championship, a lifelong entrepreneur with decades of experience across entertainment, television, telecom, and more. Under his leadership, PFC recently hosted a major event on ESPN, and the sport is now on the verge of being officially recognized in Brazil, Malaysia, and Morocco, with more countries coming soon, all part of the journey toward becoming an Olympic sport status. We'll talk about how this idea became a worldwide phenomenon, the path toward becoming a sanctioned Olympic sport, and what's next for PFC, including their plans for $1 million professional events and the global amateur scene. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Welcome to Sports City, USA, Frisco, Texas. Ever wonder how a small town in North Texas became the epicenter of American sports? From the Dallas Cowboys to the PGA of America, Frisco is where champions train, fans gather, and unforgettable events come to life. In our new docuseries, Where Greatness Grows, hear the real story from the people who built it. City leaders, sports execs, and visionaries who turned Frisco into a powerhouse for tournaments and meetings. With world-class venues, championship fields, and top-tier hotels all in one place, Frisco is more than ready to host your next big event. Watch the story at sportscityusa.com.
You have so many of the professional leagues touching this community, whether it's Major League Soccer or the NFL or the PGA.
Failure was just not an option.
It's been really cool to build the business that we have here in Frisco.
It's one of those places where you want to be if you're into sports.
People are pointing here, and they're saying, I need to go there.
Steve, welcome to the Plays You Warm Up podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to have this conversation. So let's start at the beginning. How did the idea for Pillow Fight Championship first come about?
Such a long story. I'll try to abbreviate it. I was working on an MMA club on a truck. It's called Fight Truck, and it was transforming. It's really the only transformer in the world, even though the movies are all out there. But it's a semi truck that transformed into a boxing ring, and I was going to put an MMA, show on the truck, go city to city, small town USA, have one fight. There's one winner, one loser. The winner drives to the next town, has a fight in the next town the next day, or if he doesn't get hurt, it keeps going. And my brother came in, and he had just gone to Burning Man, where they had this Beyond Thunderdome pillow fight. And he said, "Hey," because I had a whole design, a video made on the truck. It didn't exist yet. It's about $1.5 million. And my brother came in and said, "Hey, this is really cool, but MMA is not legal in all the states. I think it were like 11 at the time. You need sponsors. The big sponsors don't want, blood in the ring. They're sort of anti-MMA." And he said, "Why don't you do something like pillow fighting?" He said, "I just got back from Burning Man, and they had this Beyond Thunderdome pillow fight that everybody loved." At first I thought, "Oh, this is stupid. That's just a stupid idea. How you going to do that, as a real show every day?" Now, after being in the, sort of pillow fight business, right, for the last 7 years, those fantasy type things do actually work, or would work. But I thought about it, and it is a business. So it had some good points, and I started working on the pillow design, and we ended up coming up with the ripstop nylon sailcloth pillow, which is now patented. And we started having our first fights about just when COVID was opening up, and we're in Florida, so we were able to get a few fights off. August 2020, And within a month and a half, we had 1.5 billion views. I mean, the content just exploded. And I'm actually in Brazil right now. Actually, our first and second fight was in Delray Beach, Florida. But our third, fourth, and fifth fight was on national TV in Brazil, which was a big deal. I knew a guy that owned an MMA club, and he saw the content. He's like, "You got to get down here and put on a show." So we did that. Our 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 sixth fight was at Dania Beach Casino, and our seventh fight was a pay-per-view on Fight TV. So by then, I had already signed a deal with Kevin Hart to do a celebrity comedy pillow fight championship show that they were shopping. And like we were going to the moon. I had an offer from Triller actually to sell the whole company to them for about 20 million 3 days after our pay-per-view, which actually I thought about for a few minutes and then accepted. But the war hit, the stock market collapsed, and they couldn't get the financing to actually close the deal. So that fell apart. So I kept running it and building it up, and here we are, today after 4 more years.
I mean, that's incredible. There's so much that I want to touch on just through that answer.
Yeah.
But there a specific aha moment when you realize this can be more than just a fun concept?
Yeah. Well, right from the beginning, I started. The first thing was basically find a logo. Where we're going to get into the pillow fight business. So we like Pillow Fight Championship. We hired we actually used logo tournament to create our logo. And then we printed it on a bedroom pillow, which was like this pastel, this pastel or white pillow with our logo on it. And it just sort of laid flat there. Bedroom pillows everybody was a pillow fighter at some point, in their youth. But the fighting instrument itself had no sort of show. There was no showbiz in that show, and so I started thinking about what to do. The straps, adding straps was important, so that it didn't look all like a bunched up pillow. You grab the end of a pillow and you bunch it up in your hand, and so that the straps actually helped sort of add some sort of professionalism to the pillow itself. But then I came across this kite material, which was really brightly colored neon ripstop nylon, and I ordered about 30 samples. And one of them happened to be a material that was actually not just standard ripstop; it was sailcloth, just by chance. This sailcloth was really special. It had a plastic coating on one side that made it airproof and waterproof. So we had pillows made with the straps out of this material. And when we got into the ring to do a test fight, you could hear like this loud bang noise when it hit, and it really added a lot of kind of sensation. Your ears are telling you that it really hurt, but it actually didn't hurt that much. And so that was it. That was the moment when we said, "Wow, this is really cool." We had hired a couple of Golden Gloves boxers, to get in the ring to do like a demo fight. And they had, when we walked into the gym, they were sort of looking at us like, what are we doing here? And, we had it was a pink, it was a bright neon pink pillow, and a blue one. Those are the colors we started with. And so, obviously you get, a couple of, tough guys with the pink pillow, there's a lot of jokes there, but they started fighting and actually really loved it. And then they started fooling around and practicing all these little moves. They weren't worried about getting knocked out. So it made them loose. And these guys actually had a good sense of humor anyway. They were friends. And so they started fooling around and just doing a lot of things that kind of a maybe less than 100% serious type of a situation. And it actually made this. That's what happens with our fights. Actually, all of our that sort of funness sort of comes out. even though the guys really want to win, they don't have to worry about getting knocked out or even getting a scratch on them. Their face might get a little red if they get, pummeled constantly, which does happen, by the way, which is great. we love those. We love those moments when a fighter just really gets beat up, but nothing happens to them.
Yeah.
It's an ego thing, and maybe even a shame factor for some real tough fighters that, hey, you lost. You got beat up with a pink pillow, man. That's it. Another career.
Eh, yeah. I'm one of four siblings, so I am well acquainted with pillow fighting as a sport within our home growing up. But it is funny to see. I remember seeing it on national television for the first time and just connecting and thinking, I mean, that's brilliant. But I'm sure from your end, when you first started talking about professional pillow fighting, what were people's reactions? And how did you convince them to see your vision
Yeah.
behind it?
Well, the problem we had back then is the same problem we have now, to a little bit lesser extent, because it's fairly famous even worldwide now. Although, when people have not seen it, when they have not seen what we do, which is, Pillow Fight Championship, they, the name Pillow Fight, as soon as you say pillow fight, you think bedroom pillow. That's the first kind of comment. Now, once they've seen it, they say, "Oh, well, wait a minute. This is not what I was thinking." So that's our
Mhm.
challenge. That is our challenge. Now, by the way, that was UFC's challenge. And I'll give you an example. So, Ultimate Fighting Championship, no one knew what it was, so they had to keep saying the name Ultimate Fighting Championship, which in itself doesn't really mean kind of like what it is, right? Now, after
Mhm.
30 years, you just say UFC. You never hear them say Ultimate
Yep.
Fighting Champion. UFC is UFC, and you just know what it is. So we're PFC. We have a trademark on PFC, and we have a trademark on Pillow Fight Championship. We're hoping in time that people will just say, "Oh, PFC," and they know what it is. It's sort of hardcore pillow fighting, but you don't need to say pillow fight for people to actually get it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe for those who haven't seen a PFC match, how would you describe what a professional pillow fight actually looks and feels like?
Well, on one side, on the pure fight side, our our fights, the rounds are either 1 minute or 90 seconds, and there's either one, two, or three rounds. It depends on the type of event or fight we're going to have. So you can sort of spin it up however you want to, according to how many fighters you have and how much time you have to actually conduct the event, or that particular fight, because of just sort of how you're programming the event. Um, but yeah, the our fights are that when you watch a boxing match, um, and it's the last 10 seconds of a match, and they hear those sticks, or they hit those wood sticks. And then the fighters start fighting fiercely. 100% of the time of our fights, you see that fierceness throughout that whole minute or 90 seconds per round. So it's a lot of offense. There's a lot of action. There isn't is not a lot of sort of dancing around where there's no hitting. There is some of that. There is a strategy actually too, pillow fighting, and each fight against different opponents. And the fighters actually have to figure out that strategy they're going to use based on the sort of skill level and style that the other fighter, is using against them. And it's fascinating actually to see someone quickly, like, and really, we have pillow fighters that have been fighting for like 4 or 5 years now, like Leandro Apollo, who just won our ESPN event. You could see him develop a strategy, and then B, adjust
Mhm.
his strategy actually when the other fighter realizes, oh, he's under what I'm trying to do here, and then he adjusts, and he won because of that, and being able to do so in such a short period of time, and this the minute and a half goes by quick. Now, the other thing is, I know our the Nielsen numbers showed our ratings were double everyone else's. There were 36 sports in the whole Ocho event on ESPN throughout that whole weekend, and we beat FS1 and FS2 also. Um, but the we know why. Because the rounds are short and they're so passionate, and there's so much energy. The viewer doesn't really have time to get bored. You know, it's kind of over. The round's over by the time they think about sort of swiping left or switching channels, and it holds them in. Um, they're either watching the ring announcer or the ring girls or the ring boys. We've actually had ring boys before. It's kind of funny to do that. You got to get a really, really secure guy in there. We've had a couple of sort of big muscle builder type guys, that they joke around. Um, and it's just action. And that's it. I mean, and it's fun too, because the crowd sort of joking around with each other and they're disarmed basically. The people are disarmed on the way in. They're in a good mood. They know they're going to see a pillow fight. It's not there's no blood and guts, and it's much more relaxed than like a boxing event or MMA. And there's kids are there. Like Leandro had his three kids were actually on the side of the ring cheering him. You know, but it was a fierce, sort of passionate fight. It looks even violent sometimes. It looks, the guys are trying.
Yeah.
If it's done right, the guys are actually trying to kill each other, but they can't because it's a pillow. That's a proper
And
pillow. Yeah.
yeah. I work with a few guys who I think would like to volunteer as being the ring men. So I will connect with you after
Oh,
after this. But I think those same guys also think that they can compete in one of your
yeah.
matches. But to give people an idea, I know you've mentioned some of your national and international events. What is the landscape of Pillow Fight Championship today?
Yeah. Well, we're played in 12 countries. Just last week, actually at the teams event, Malaysia awarded us sports status. And then I'm actually in Brazil right now. Tomorrow is on the 24th is a award ceremony the government has to award federations sports status or award other federations. In our case, they're actually awarding us status as an official sport of Brazil. I think in Malaysia it's like the 110th sport, official sport, and it's something like that here for Brazil. So that's a big deal. Malaysia took 3 months to get that status. Actually, 5 months to attain that status. Brazil, we was the first place we filed, and it took 2.5 years. So it's finally being awarded. And at that point, we have one federation now in Sao Paulo. Was our original one. But there's about 10 others that will pop up after this. It becomes a lot easier. And then Morocco actually should be at the end of the month. Morocco's, which is supported by the royal. There's a king there, and the prince has a MMA club. The royal, fight club, and they're doing pillow fighting. It's crazy. You see this very royal looking gym, with these beautiful drapes and ornaments all over, and it's like a jujitsu mat, and they're pillow fighting. It's just crazy to see. But we think we're trying to become an Olympic sport. Um, we need 70 countries to sign up. Um, Really, the effort to sign them up has really been just me working when I can. Um, it's actually not a lot of work because pillow fighting is a low cost sport. You need pillows. You just need pillows.
Yeah.
And you don't need a big field or special field. Like baseball, football. There's no goalposts, and And so it's probably the most space efficient sport there is. I really, you only need about 100 square feet to actually do a fight. You could do it inside or outside, and just do it on a jujitsu mat, which is actually how one way that we're working on expanding is actually just having um, targeting the jujitsu market. Um, because the jujitsu clubs, the dojos, there's 35,000 of them in the U.S. There's about 400,000 in the world, and they exist already. They have the same, the four walls. They're already paying for the the owners of the clubs are black belts. Like they understand the organizational structure of a sport and how to conduct events. And my experience with the jujitsu uh, fighters, they're very good, respectful, disciplined group, which is something they teach is jujitsu, and they like pillow fighting. And by the way, you can only do one thing till you get a little sick of it, and then the pillow fighting actually is a great break. It's a good team builder too. So, and it's a full combat sport. I mean, by the way, that's another big thing about pillow fighting that is unlike any other combat sport. You could grab this pillow, and in 1 second, you and I could be trying to kill each other with it. Full contact. I mean, full bore. And you could not do that in any combat sport. Until you get into UFC or you start fighting, as an adult amateur. So you can actually become a fifth degree black belt and actually never touch anybody. But with pillow fighting, you know, you're touching somebody, you're hitting them as hard as you can the first 5 seconds. And there's something really magical about being able to do that. Being able to go hard right away is very satisfying. Hitting a heavy bag or a speed bag or a pad for 10 years is not really that satisfying. I mean, it's a good workout. Uh, but, but there's a big, that's not, you know, you're not really doing karate until you give somebody a karate chop, right? I mean, you're doing it, and the thing is, not to
Yeah.
berate any of the other combat sports, because those are disciplines where you're practicing, and then you could, if you had to, right, uh, you could use your skills that you develop if you had to defend yourself or protect someone else. And so that's obviously what the purpose let's say the original purpose of the martial arts were, to go to war, as well as protect
Yeah.
yourself. But now it's more, to protect yourself and others.
Yeah, totally. And I think watching film of some of your events preparing for this conversation, I think I was surprised at how technical it was. And the sport that it most reminded me of was jujitsu, in a way of how it's not just as fun as it must be to hit someone as hard as you can on the first try. There's still a minute and a half left of the match. So it was cool to see just how technical it gets in those events. And so you spoke a little bit about what you need in order to host one of your events, and you guys are looking to expand across the country. And so, for a destination, a city, a venue that potentially would host one of your events, what are the bare minimum logistics that they would need to have in order to host?
Yeah. The bare minimum is really a jujitsu mat type setup. It could be one mat, it could be 12. It sort of depends on how many, participants we would have, and how long the event would be planned for, or if it were a multi-day event. Um, uh, and then the question is, do you want we always like to put on a big show. We've been on ESPN a few times. It's for us to put our best foot forward. There's a boxing ring, which does either, sometimes the local governments may actually have one. We usually have to rent them. They're $2,500 to $3,500. Then there's the ring mat, which is sponsored. So the ring mat costs money to get. All the ring mat materials are around 4,000 to get those, you know, outfitted properly with sponsor logos and things like that. Um, but so our preference is to do the events, the immersive events with the big event at the end. That we televise actually. Um, but it doesn't have to be that way. It could just be an immersive event. In other words, if it were more community centric, where it's like, well, we don't care about the rest of the world. We just want our citizens and people to like get in the ring and have the experience. Get on the mat and actually, and then at that point, you could have people spend a couple minutes with the pillow and they're done. That's good enough. They whack and they get whacked and they're like, oh, that's cool. And then they move on. So you can actually give everybody a taste without spending a lot of money, and you could do it inside or outside. It just depends on the venue.
Yeah. And you are fairly new to the sports and events tourism industry. And I think one of my favorite conversations to have are with groups like yours who are just being introduced of the potential for the partnership
Yeah.
with these cities. And so you were at your first conference last week at Teams. What is it that you're looking for out of that partnership?
Well, we're trying to build the league. We we're ultimately we want to become an Olympic sport. We're on our way. We want to accelerate that process as you know as much as we can. Um, from the teams participants, which are all the governments and around the U.S. What we're hoping is they will see pillow fighting as a great sport that's mentally and physically beneficial, as well as has the entertainment aspect to it. We Sports entertainment is absolutely here. We are an entertaining sport. Um, it is a spectator sport. Although I could quickly get, in other words, it's an interesting thing because we're a spectator sport that everybody could do and everyone has done it. So there's already this sort of primal interest embedded in their brain that they remember. Everyone's got their pillow fight story, where they knocked their little brother off the bed and hit his head probably. Those little bedroom fights probably generate far more injuries than ours, which actually we've really never had any injuries, because there's a referee keeping everybody and there's nothing to hit your head on. But yeah, it's but as far as what we're hoping is that those governments would conduct an event. It is actually very special. There's a lot of buzz around PFC. I think it's good marketing approach for the cities to basically sponsor an event. We need them to sponsor an event. We do have some sponsors, but we need the sponsorship from the governments to cover the cost, which is it's not cheap to fly real fighters in from wherever they are. Everybody has to get paid, and although again you could do these immersive experiences and then it cuts the cost, so both of those options are available. Um, but for a city to get behind what we're doing and being able to sort of use that also marketing of, hey, this is what we do here. There's a big benefit for the community and also marketing, the city itself, because it is so special, and we can bring that sort of Ocho to town, which ESPN has spent years building up. We're the number one sport on Ocho, and we could bring that, bring that with us.
And just so people know, I know you've mentioned a lot of professional fighters, but is this open to people of all ages and genders? Is it totally
Yeah.
professional or?
Yeah, I mean, we've had immersive sort of experience, little kids that are 3 years old, swinging the pillows, and it doesn't matter how old you are. Pillow fighting's, was old. We actually had a tournament in Brazil, and we had a 65-year-old guy that entered, and he did pretty good. He did pretty good. And
Yeah.
actually, I think in that match he was fighting like an 18 or 19-year-old kid. You know, so yeah, yeah, it was good. It was funny. It was funny,
Oh,
but I mean the
I
guy
mean,
did
I can
such a
only,
great job. Well, the cardio is super intense.
yeah,
Uh,
I can
like
only imagine my parents.
uh,
I'm
the
sure.
teens are really the most dynamic because their balance is perfect and they don't get tired. But we've had TKOs before in the first round where someone got so gassed that they just couldn't fight. They had to give up, and TKO is called shocking. To have a TKO in pillow fighting, but it's happened a couple times. And the cardio, I'd say the only thing I could tell you that the cardio is so intense that it's probably more like the 400-yard dash, you know, would be on that
Mhm.
level. You really have to be a top athlete to be a great pillow fighter. You can't get in the ring if you're huffing and puffing.
Yeah. I mean, a minute and a half is no joke. It's a full-on sprint for that time. So
It
as
seems
much
like
as,
forever. Yeah,
some of my
yeah.
coworkers would say. Um, so as a lifelong entrepreneur, what's been most different or surprising about building a sport versus building a traditional business?
Yeah, well, rule number one is try to break even as soon as possible. And with a sport, it's just not a business. It's not a normal business. In our case, we actually have the pillow, right? So we have a patented pillow that we
Mhm.
sell. Um, but our competition to our pillow is the bedroom pillow. The kid says, "Hey, mom, I want that PFC combat pillow," and it's $79, and the mom's like, "What? You have a pillow on your bed, go use that one. Beat up your brother." So that's sort of our competition, and but our it's sort of sports is not a business at first, right? We're all looking at MLB and NBA and NFL, and I don't know who invented. I know some stories about who sort of invented, like basketball and stuff. And I mean, I joke around. I mean, they all died broke. Whoever invented those sports. I mean, they were all paupers by the time they kicked off. And I'm probably gonna end up that way too. I'm trying not to.
How?
Trying not
Yeah.
to. And I'm like flying around the world with a pink pillow, whacking people, and it's just the only, the most bizarre way to you know, spend my time. Um, but I see it, so I can't give up on it. I see it, and it keeps pushing up, and it's actually very challenging. I mean, uh, you get a little bit down. Not say down, but you see these billionaires are all behind these sports. Even a AAA baseball league, has these values of 30, 40, $50 million. Um, and but those guys just want these AAA assets. I mean, if it's making money, yeah, you want it. You know, Mark Cuban loves something that already makes money, but to try to get these things and to become viable, sports entertainment enterprises. It's not easy. We did two events for Charleston River Dogs. Charleston River Dogs, the
Okay.
AAA baseball team owned by Bill Murray. They're in Charleston, South Carolina, and we did two tournaments there along the third baseline on the other side of the fence. During the games. Um, Now they actually get it because they realize that they're there to put on this sort of hometown experience. You can watch the baseball game, eat a hot dog, joke around, see a pillow fight. They always have some sort of other events. There's all this other stuff going on. The same with Banana Ball. Banana Ball is massively successful,
Yep.
um, with sports entertainment, and the stadiums are packed, and they are selling the tickets for like $800 a ticket and selling the stadiums out 3 or 4 days in a row. I mean, it's just unbelievable
It's
what you
crazy.
could do where you're taking these ancient sports and then adding a little, uh, you know, pixie dust
Flair. Yeah,
on, it's literally banana ball is like pixie dust. Um, and it's just unbelievable. But now it appeals to a whole different group of people that are now willing to go watch the game where you couldn't even get them in there before. Um, and so maybe the hardcore guys are not even going. They're not even going to the banana ball.
yeah,
But now there's a whole bunch of them that are, and it probably ultimately helps the original hardcore sports. If you like banana ball, I don't know if you're going to say, "Oh, I like banana ball, but I don't like MLB." Um, could be, it could be, but
totally. And that,
it probably overall helps.
yeah, definitely. I mean, and it gets people out and seeing the stadiums and
Right?
your events and the overall event experience,
Yeah.
which I think is something that you guys have done a great job of, is just overall enhancing the competition experience. And so, as you look forward the next 5 to 10 years, I know you're currently in Brazil as pillow fighting is becoming a sanctioned sport, but where do you see the growth of pillow fight championship going?
Yep. Well, right now we're working on establishing the U.S. League. We already have 10,000 fighters signed up, like without any promotion at all. Just people who reached out to us on the website and signed. We have a form on there, but we've never even promoted it. So it's there's people that have sought us out. They've seen the content. Oh, I want to be a pillow fighter, and they signed up. Um, if we even promoted it, we'd have hundreds of thousands, if not, in the millions.
Yeah.
Um, because because everybody inherently is a pillow fighter. And I think that we're sort of in this mode where there's a light switch, and the light switch is well, it's not really a light. I'll say a light switch because I was going to say off and on. We're not really in the off mode, so it's sort of almost on. But it's not off. So a
Yeah.
dimmer, let's say, we turn the dimmer. There's a dimmer there, and it's like half speed. So looking forward to turning that thing, full blast, and having the league play. It's the league play, just very similar to what paddleball did. Um, we don't see we don't see PFC as a paddleball type sport. Paddleball you could play for hours. Pillow fighting you could play for minutes. You know, um,
Yep.
it's just not the thing where you just go, let's go, do this. It is a fight. It's a real fight, and if you're playing a game, pillow fighting is not necessarily a game. Um, but there's sort of one winner and one loser, and you could definitely go fight your brother. You know, but
Yeah.
it's pretty much over pretty quick. 5 minutes and you're good and mentally and physically satisfied and exhausted, and probably on off to the next thing that you're going to do. You're going to definitely rest up, and you'll never forget it. You'll never forget that 5 minutes. Uh, that's it. You know.
And I yes, and I do think it's interesting and important to touch on is just you mentioned just the interest in people wanting to compete, but I was shocked about how many people I mentioned that I was having this conversation, how many people knew who you guys were just because of the virality of a lot of your content on social media and your coverage on places like ESPN. So, could you talk about that and the importance of the growth of the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I'll credit our content, on TikTok and Instagram, just absolutely blew up. We were one of the first sports coming out of COVID, so people didn't have sports. So there was this vacuum of, just sporting activity. And then it was so unique. You had cornhole coming out. Um, PFC, the Ocho also sort of launched all these near sports things like Omega Ball, and then all of a sudden the bars were having axe throwing, and now you have the armored MMA stuff where they're wearing full armor, Camelot type armor on horses, even with those long spears. I mean, it's unbelievable where everything's going. So it's just a new world, I mean, it's a new world, and it's fun, and I think everything was what we had, maybe 10 sports, and now 10 sports, there's 110 sports. In our case, just becoming a federation where actually I have a friend of mine, and he's always bugging me. He says, pillow fighting isn't a sport. And he just says that to bug me, and now I could show him the document. The government says it's sport. It's funny.
It's quite an experience, and I
actually have a great idea for a new sport, and it may even be a bigger moneymaker than PFC. And I'm going to tell you what it is, in hopes of one of the viewers out there actually takes it, because actually it's phenomenal. It's sort of goofy, but it would be big. And it's so simple. It's called electric fencing. Electric fencing. You know how you have fencing?
yeah
With the sword.
yep
Well, you just put like
yep
a taser, right? A taser built into it. So when you hit the guy in the right spot, it tases him, and he literally, gets knocked on the ground from the shock. And everybody's going to watch that. So some you probably don't even have to be a billionaire to start that, but maybe there's a millionaire out there that'll say, "Hey, Steve, that was a good idea."
I think one of our producers might take that idea and run
Oh
with
yeah,
it.
it's well, the thing is,
The
everybody,
entertainment.
yeah, everybody wants to see
Yeah.
knockouts. That's the one thing we don't have. We see it as an advantage because there's no CTE. But
Yep.
but the spectators that just want to see blood and broken bones, we don't have that. And so that's what's missing. We're a G-rated family combat sport, if that even ever sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's why the electric fencing makes sense. It's like you're going to get a knockout,
That's good. That's good. I'm excited to share this one. But
Yeah.
so to finish us off, if there's anyone out there who would like to get in contact, wants to learn more, or just connect with your organization, what is the best way to do so?
Yeah, best way is email steve@fightpfc.com, our website, www.fightpfc.com. Any social platform you go to, we're at Fight PFC.
You're also on Plazy, so they could also find you on
Okay. Good.
and your phone number is there. But yeah, well, Steve, this has been such a fun conversation. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and more about your organization, and I'm excited to see your continued success. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. Until next time.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks. You were awesome, by the way.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.